It was just another peaceful day on Earth, or so everyone thought. The sun rose over sprawling cities and life continued as normal. The people of Earth had long since earned a reputation across the galaxy for their peaceful nature. The Earth. Healers, a group of highly trained doctors and scientists, had been at the center of this peace. Working alongside various alien species, they offered their knowledge of medicine and healing techniques, aiding those in need across the stars. For years, Earth's healers had helped maintain the balance of health and well-being in the galaxy. Their services were respected, not only for their skills but for the compassion and care they gave to every living being, regardless of their origin. The healers were known as a symbol of unity, a gentle hand in the ever-changing cosmos. However, in the shadows of this tranquility, something darker was taking shape. Far from Earth, in the cold expanse of the galaxy, the Krethrai, a powerful and aggressive alien faction, watched the human healers with growing disdain. The Krethrai were a people driven by ambition and power, always seeking ways to control and dominate. They saw the Earth healers as a resource, one that, if controlled, could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. To the Krethrai, Earth's peaceful nature was a weakness. They believed that if they could strike at the heart of Earth's healers, they could cripple humanity's influence across the stars. And so, they began to make plans, silent, calculating, and ruthless. At the same time, back on Earth, life continued without suspicion. The healers went about their work in medical centers, hospitals, and research labs, developing new techniques to heal wounds, cure diseases, and extend life. They were celebrated by all, their work recognized as one of humanity's greatest contributions to galactic peace. Dr. Olivia Harper, one of Earth's top healers, stood in a laboratory one morning, looking over a new treatment she had developed for an alien species suffering from a rare virus. She was deeply focused, her thoughts consumed with the task at hand. She had no idea that far away, in the dark recesses of space, the Krethrai were preparing their attack. The Krethrai had studied Earth for years, learning the patterns of its healers and identifying weaknesses in their defenses. The Krethrai knew that striking Earth's medical facilities would send shockwaves through the galaxy. It would create chaos, not just on Earth, but across every species that relied on Earth's healing power. The healers were vital to the functioning of the galactic community, and taking them out of the equation would force the galaxy into submission. A plan was set in motion. The Krethrai fleet, cloaked by advanced technology, moved silently toward Earth. The ships were massive, their weapons designed for one purpose: destruction. They had been prepared for this moment for years, waiting for the perfect time to strike. On Earth, the first signs of danger came in the form of a cryptic message sent to the highest levels of government. It was intercepted by Earth's intelligence agencies, but the message was vague, too vague to be taken seriously at first. It spoke of an impending attack from an unknown enemy, one that would target Earth's healers. The message warned of something far worse than any threat Earth had faced before. The intelligence agencies quickly alerted the Earth Defense Force, but the response was slow. There was still disbelief that such an attack could happen. Earth had long enjoyed peace, and the idea that someone would dare to strike the very heart of its humanitarian efforts seemed unimaginable. The Krethrai, however, were well aware of this complacency and knew that Earth's defenses were not prepared for a threat like theirs. At the same time, in the quiet corners of Earth's medical facilities, the healers continued their work, oblivious to the storm brewing in space. Olivia Harper and her colleagues carried on with their research, unaware that the shadow of destruction loomed over them. Then, in the dead of night, the Krethrai made their move. Their fleet arrived, silently, slipping through Earth's defenses undetected. Massive ships descended from the sky, their weapons ready. Before Earth's defense systems could react, the first wave of destruction began. Medical stations, research labs, and hospitals across the world were hit. Earth's healers were caught off guard, many taken hostage, while others were left defenseless as their facilities were obliterated. The Krethrai had struck swiftly and with deadly precision. Dr. Olivia Harper was among those taken. As she tried to make sense of the attack, she found herself aboard a Krethrai ship, her hands bound. She stared out the small window at the vast emptiness of space, realizing that this was not just an attack on Earth's healers, it was an assault on everything humanity had built. Back on Earth, the panic spread quickly. News of the attack broke within hours, and the Earth Defense Force scrambled to respond. But the Krethrai had already made their move. Medical supplies, irreplaceable research, and the lives of countless healers had been torn apart. The galaxy's dependence on Earth's medical expertise now seemed like a distant dream. The Krethrai had sent a clear message. Earth was no longer untouchable, and Earth's healers, those who had worked so tirelessly to mend the galaxy, had been struck down. As the news spread, a wave of anger began to build among the people of Earth. They would not stand for this. They would not let their healers fall so easily. A quiet whisper began to echo across the planet, a whisper of vengeance. The quiet before the storm had ended. Now, Earth would prepare to fight back, not just for its healers, but for the very soul of humanity. The city of New York was calm as the sun dipped below the horizon, its golden light reflecting off the skyscrapers that reached for the stars. People filled the streets, unaware that a storm was brewing far beyond the atmosphere. It was just another evening, until the sky split with an explosion that shook the ground beneath their feet. The Krethrai fleet had arrived. In the dead of night, the first wave of alien ships descended on Earth's major medical stations. The sound of air-splitting explosions filled the air as massive Krethrai warships blasted down from the skies. The ships were sleek, dark, and almost invisible in the night sky, at least until it was too late. The ships were equipped with cloaking technology that allowed them to approach Earth undetected, slipping past even the most advanced satellite systems. The initial attack came without warning. Medical stations in major cities like New York, London, and Tokyo were hit first. The healers who had dedicated their lives to saving others were taken by surprise. Some fought back, using whatever medical equipment they could find as weapons, but they were no match for the Krethrai's overwhelming firepower. At one of the largest hospitals in New York, Dr. Olivia Harper was in the middle of examining a rare case of alien contamination when the ground shook violently. The walls rattled and the power flickered before going completely dark. The loud, thunderous sound of explosions echoed through the building. Before she could process what was happening, a group of soldiers in heavy armor stormed into her lab. "Stay down," one of them shouted. The Krethrai soldiers were swift, their weapons deadly. Dr. Harper's heart raced as she instinctively dropped to the floor, but she couldn't help but watch in shock as the Krethrai forces quickly disabled the hospital's defenses. Within minutes, the entire building was overrun. Screams echoed down the hallways as the once peaceful medical facility transformed into a battlefield. Olivia felt a wave of panic rising in her chest. She needed to warn the others. Earth had to know that the Krethrai were here. But it was too late. The Krethrai weren't just attacking Earth's healers. They were making a statement. They had come to take what they wanted, and nothing could stop them. Olivia's thoughts raced as the soldiers moved through the building, rounding up the healers with terrifying efficiency. There was no resistance, just confusion and terror. As she was dragged toward the transport vessel, Olivia's mind raced. How could this be happening? Earth had always been seen as a peaceful planet, a place that worked to help others. She knew that the Krethrai had always been aggressive, but no one ever thought they would target Earth's healers. Until now. They wanted control, and they had shown no mercy in achieving it. Across the world, similar scenes were playing out. In London, Dr. Marcus Reed, a leading expert in alien diseases, was working late into the night in a laboratory when the Krethrai struck. His facility, one of the oldest in the galaxy, was suddenly engulfed in flames as a bomb exploded just outside the entrance. The blast sent debris flying in every direction, and the walls cracked under the pressure. Dr. Reed didn't hesitate. He knew what was at stake. He reached for the emergency signal but was interrupted by the sight of armed Krethrai soldiers storming through the broken doors. His heart raced as the soldiers advanced, their eyes scanning the room for any sign of resistance. With a deep breath, Marcus turned and ran, darting down the hallway as the sound of gunfire rang in the distance. He had to find the others. There was still time to stop this, right? But as he reached the emergency exits, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A massive ship hovered just above the city, dark as a shadow, casting a menacing pall over the area. It was then that he realized Earth's defenses were no match for this. The Krethrai had struck when humanity was most vulnerable. Back in New York, Olivia Harper was trapped on a Krethrai warship, along with dozens of other healers. The ship's interior was cold, sterile, and entirely alien. There were no windows, just a dimly lit corridor that stretched on forever. As she was forced into a holding cell, she couldn't help but think of the other healers who had been captured across the globe. They were all now prisoners of war, and there was no telling how long they would remain alive. The Krethrai had only just begun their conquest of Earth's healers, and the galaxy was beginning to take notice. The attack on Earth didn't just affect the planet. It shook the entire galactic community. News spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the galaxy. The Krethrai's assault was not just a military action, it was a declaration of war. The healers of Earth were known to be the best in the galaxy, and if they could be taken down so easily, what hope did the rest of the galaxy have? The impact was immediate. Some factions in the galaxy, once allies of Earth, began to reconsider their stance. Others, who had long feared the power of Earth's influence, saw an opportunity to strike while Earth was vulnerable. In the shadows, the leaders of various alien races began to stir, their plans shifting as the balance of power in the galaxy teetered. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders struggled to understand the gravity of the situation. The president addressed the nation, his voice steady but filled with concern. "We will not back down. We will fight. Our healers will be freed, and we will ensure that the Krethrai pay for this. We are Earth, and we do not bow to anyone." But despite these brave words, there was fear. The Earth Defense Force mobilized, but they knew the Krethrai had already gained the upper hand. The Galactic Council was in turmoil, calls for action were made, but no one knew exactly how to respond to such a sudden, brutal attack. Back on Nar-Santiu, the Krethrai warship, Olivia Harper sat in the cold cell, staring at the walls as the ship moved further into the vastness of space. She could feel the weight of the situation pressing on her shoulders. She was one of Earth's best, but in that moment she felt powerless. There was no guarantee that anyone would come for her, no promise that Earth could stop the Krethrai. But deep inside, Olivia Harper knew one thing. Earth was not helpless. The Reapers would come, and when they did, the Krethrai would understand exactly what it meant to challenge humanity. The galaxy was still reeling from the shock of Earth's attack. The Krethrai had struck fast and hard, leaving the planet's defenders stunned and confused. Earth's healers were now hostages, and Earth's military forces were struggling to mount an effective response. The Krethrai had seized the initiative, and the situation seemed dire. But in the depths of Earth's military command, a plan was being set into motion, one that would change the course of the galaxy forever. General Aaron Holt, a seasoned leader within Earth's Defense Force, EDF, sat in a darkened room, staring at the glowing map of the galaxy in front of him. His mind raced as he looked at the spread of Krethrai ships that had appeared out of nowhere. They had completely bypassed Earth's defenses. No one had expected such an assault. "We need to act fast," he muttered to himself, frustration growing in his chest. The situation was critical, but Holt knew that the EDF alone couldn't deal with the Krethrai threat. Earth needed something different, something far more powerful. It was then that he thought of the Reapers. The Reapers had been humanity's last line of defense for years. They were soldiers bred for a singular purpose, to defend Earth at all costs. But the Reapers weren't just soldiers. They were enhanced, modified in ways no one else in the galaxy dared to imagine. Their strength, agility, and endurance were unmatched. But there was more to them than just physical power. The Reapers were trained in psychological warfare. They knew how to break an enemy not just through force but through fear. Aaron Holt had never wanted to rely on them, knowing the moral complexities of unleashing such a force. But as the galaxy hung in the balance, he realized that there was no other choice. The Reapers were humanity's answer to the Krethrai. He activated the command console and transmitted a signal to the hidden facility where the Reapers were housed. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a place known only to a select few, the Reapers slept in stasis chambers. They had been waiting for the moment when they would be needed, the moment when Earth's survival depended on them. It wasn't long before the message was received. The massive chamber doors opened and a low hum filled the room. Inside, the Reapers were awakening, their enhancements activating, systems coming online. One by one, the warriors rose from their chambers. Their eyes glowed with a cold, calculated focus. The Reapers were not human in the traditional sense. They had been transformed into something more, something capable of unimaginable violence. At the head of the Reapers stood Commander Michael Reyes, the leader of the elite group. Reyes had seen the darkest sides of humanity during his time in service, but his loyalty to Earth was unquestionable. His eyes narrowed as he received the orders from General Holt. The Reapers were to be unleashed. They were to find the Krethrai and deliver a message the galaxy would never forget. "This is it," Reyes said, his voice cold and steady. "We show them what happens when they mess with Earth." The Reapers were not soldiers to be feared. They were something else entirely. They were humanity's retribution. Back on Earth, General Holt watched as the Reapers began their journey. Their mission was simple: find the Krethrai, retrieve the healers, and annihilate anyone who stood in their way. There was no room for mercy. The Krethrai had crossed a line, and humanity would make sure they regretted it. As the Reapers prepared to depart, the world's leaders gathered in emergency meetings. They were still reeling from the Krethrai's initial attack, unsure of how to proceed. But the Reapers' emergence provided a glimmer of hope. There was a realization that Earth was not without power. If the Reapers succeeded, Earth's message to the galaxy would be clear: humanity could not be underestimated. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the Krethrai were celebrating their victory. They had captured dozens of Earth's top healers, and the galaxy watched as they paraded their captives across the stars. The Krethrai leaders felt untouchable. They believed that Earth's response would be weak, that the human race was too fragile to take on their might. But they were wrong. Commander Reyes and the Reapers moved swiftly, using Earth's fleet as cover. Their enhancements made them faster and more deadly than any army the galaxy had ever seen. They infiltrated Krethrai strongholds, bypassing security with ease. In a matter of hours, the Reapers had reached the first of many Krethrai prisons, where Earth's healers were being held. Olivia Harper, still imprisoned in one of the Krethrai ships, could hear the sounds of heavy footsteps outside her cell. She had been locked away, unable to do anything, yet she felt a strange sense of hope stirring inside her. She knew Earth's military would eventually fight back, but what she hadn't expected was the arrival of something far more terrifying. Doors to her cell suddenly burst open, and in walked a group of heavily armored soldiers, Reapers. They moved with the precision of a surgical strike team, their eyes cold and focused. There was no hesitation in their movements. They immediately neutralized the Krethrai guards, who stood no chance against the Reapers' superior training and strength. Olivia's heart raced as she watched one of the soldiers approach. It was Commander Reyes himself, his cold eyes scanning the room. He looked at her briefly, offering a nod of recognition before turning his attention back to the task at hand. With brutal efficiency, the Reapers freed the healers and began to gather them into protective groups. "This way," Reyes commanded, his voice firm. "We're getting you out of here." Olivia was stunned. She had never imagined that help would come in such a form, merciless, relentless, and efficient. But in that moment, she knew Earth's Reapers were the answer. They were humanity's response to the Krethrai's brutal attack, and they would stop at nothing until the Krethrai were made to pay for what they had done. As the Reapers moved from one Krethrai stronghold to another, the galaxy began to hear the stories of their power. The Krethrai's reign of terror was coming to an end, and in its place humanity's wrath was just beginning. The Reapers had become a symbol of fear, not just for the Krethrai but for the entire galaxy. Their relentless assault on the Krethrai strongholds left a trail of destruction that could not be ignored. Planet after planet, the Reapers infiltrated and dismantled the Krethrai's power, freeing Earth's healers one by one. The Krethrai had underestimated humanity's capacity for vengeance, and now they were paying the price. On the battle-scarred planet of Kreth, the Yabaoyi Reapers stormed the planet's central fortress. The building was a towering structure, dark and imposing, but it was no match for the fury of Earth's finest warriors. Commander Reyes led the charge, his enhanced body moving with unnatural speed as he tore through the defenses. His team followed, each Reaper a deadly force in their own right. They moved with precision, clearing the way for the healers to escape. Dr. Olivia Harper, now freed from her cell, watched in awe as the Reapers made their way through the fortress. Their strength was unmatched, their resolve unbreakable. There was no room for fear in their actions. They were a well-oiled machine, and the Krethrai were the targets. Olivia's mind raced as she ran with the others, trying to stay close to the Reapers as they made their way through the fortress. She could feel the weight of the moment. The galaxy's fate was in the hands of these warriors, and Earth's reputation hung on the line. The Krethrai, once so confident in their superiority, now found themselves struggling to keep up with the onslaught. Their advanced technology, once seen as invincible, crumbled under the force of the Reapers' assault. Each Krethrai soldier that stood in their path was swiftly and decisively eliminated. The Reapers showed no mercy. In the midst of the chaos, General Aaron Holt received the latest report. His eyes widened as he looked at the numbers. The Krethrai had underestimated humanity's power. They had thought the human race weak, fragile, but now the Reapers were proving them wrong. Holt couldn't help but feel a surge of pride as he watched the Reapers' progress. Earth was winning. Humanity was not just defending itself. It was conquering. But the battle was far from over. As the Reapers continued their mission, the Krethrai began to regroup, realizing that they were facing something unlike anything they had encountered before. They had expected a fight, but they hadn't expected the sheer brutality of Earth's response. The Krethrai sent reinforcements, massive war machines designed to crush anything in their path. The planet's skies darkened as new ships arrived, their weapons aimed at the Reapers. Commander Reyes, never one to back down from a challenge, gave the order. "Prepare for battle," he said, his voice calm but filled with authority. The Reapers braced themselves for the fight of their lives. They had already proven their might once, but this was different. The Krethrai weren't going to roll over. The battle for Kreth had reached its boiling point, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the Krethrai's reinforcements descended upon them, the Reapers formed their battle lines. The air crackled with energy as the Krethrai unleashed their firepower, sending blasts of plasma and energy toward the Reapers. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the war machines advanced, but the Reapers were ready. With a battle cry, they charged forward, their weapons glowing with lethal power. The clash of metal and the roar of gunfire filled the air as the two forces collided. The Reapers fought like gods, each blow they struck sending the Krethrai flying. They were unstoppable, and their fury knew no bounds. Olivia, now safe behind the Reapers' lines, watched in awe as the battle unfolded. She had never seen anything like it. The Reapers moved as if they were part of the very battlefield itself. Their movements were fluid, precise, and deadly. She could feel the shock waves from the explosions rippling through the air, but she was safe. The Reapers had made sure of that. As the battle raged on, the Krethrai began to retreat. Their once mighty war machines were being torn apart, and their soldiers were falling in droves. The Krethrai had thought they could destroy Earth's healers, but they hadn't counted on the Reapers. They hadn't counted on humanity's unyielding spirit. Commander Reyes stood at the front, leading the charge. His eyes never wavered, his focus sharp. He knew that the victory was within their grasp. The Krethrai were falling, and there was nothing they could do to stop the Reapers now. In the chaos, a Krethrai leader, one of the highest-ranking generals, emerged from the shadows. His armor was battered, but his eyes burned with rage. He had watched his forces crumble, and now he sought revenge. With a roar, he charged toward Reyes, his weapon crackling with energy. Reyes turned to face him, his expression cold and calculating. He didn't hesitate. In a flash, he was upon the Krethrai leader, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. The two fought fiercely, their blades and fists striking with the force of meteors. The battle between them was a blur of movement, each trying to overpower the other. But in the end, it was Reyes who emerged victorious. With a final decisive strike, he sent the Krethrai leader to the ground. The galaxy would never forget the sight of the Krethrai general lying defeated at the hands of Earth's Reapers. As the dust settled and the last of the Krethrai forces retreated, the Reapers stood tall. They had won. Earth had won. The Krethrai were no longer a threat, and the healers were free. Olivia looked at Reyes, her heart filled with gratitude and awe. "You did it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Reyes nodded, his expression unreadable. "We did it. Earth did it." The galaxy would now know that humanity was not just a peaceful species. It was a force to be reckoned with. The Reapers had delivered a message to the stars. Never again would Earth be underestimated. Never again would humanity be a victim, and, with that, the Reapers disappeared back into the shadows, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed by the vengeance of Earth's warriors. The battle for Kreth had raged for days, and the Krethrai were on the brink of collapse. Their forces, once strong and feared, had been scattered and broken by Earth's Reapers. No one could have predicted the ferocity with which humanity's elite warriors had struck back. But even as the last of the Krethrai ships fled the battlefield, Commander Reyes knew the war wasn't over. The Krethrai had underestimated Earth, but the final confrontation was still ahead. As the Reapers regrouped on the surface of Kreth, Reyes looked out over the battlefield. The skies, once darkened by Krethrai warships, were now clear. The air was heavy with smoke and the echoes of battle, but for the first time in days it felt like the war was coming to an end. The Krethrai had been driven back, but there was still one final objective, one last task that needed to be completed before Earth's victory was certain. The Krethrai's most valuable captives, the Earth Healers, were still being held, in the heart of the Krethrai's capital city. The city, once bustling with life, had become a fortress. Its towering walls and advanced defenses made it a nearly impenetrable stronghold. But Reyes knew that the Reapers could handle it. They had come this far and nothing would stop them now. "Reapers, gather up," Reyes ordered, his voice cutting through the comms. "This is the final push. We take the city, we rescue the healers, and we end this war once and for all." Reapers gathered in silence, their focus unwavering. Each soldier was a warrior forged for moments like this. The galaxy had seen them in action, and now they would make their mark on history. Reyes looked at his team. Each one was ready. They knew what they had to do. Olivia Harper, now free from her prison, stood at the edge of the Reapers' formation, her heart still racing from the horrors she had witnessed. The chaos, the destruction, and the deaths, they all weighed heavily on her. But the time for fear was over. It was time for action. She had spent too long as a prisoner to sit back. Now, she had seen firsthand the power and courage of the Reapers, and she would not let their sacrifices go to waste. "We can do this," she whispered to herself, as much to steady her nerves as to encourage the others. She had learned something. During her time with the Reapers, they didn't just fight for victory. They fought for something more. They fought to protect what was important. And now the healers were their responsibility. The march toward the Krethrai capital city began with the same ruthless efficiency that had marked every Reaper mission. The streets, once lively, were now empty and quiet. The war had stripped the city of its life, and only the sounds of the Reapers' boots on the cracked pavement filled the silence. The Krethrai had fortified the city well, but the Reapers were prepared. Their advanced technology, combined with their sheer determination, made them unstoppable. They breached the outer walls with ease, cutting down the alien guards as they moved forward. The Krethrai tried to regroup, But the Reapers were too fast. Within hours, they had broken through the city's defenses and were closing in on the main facility where the healers were being held. Inside the Krethrai stronghold, the leader of the Krethrai army, General Korth, watched the monitors. In frustration, his people had been defeated, their pride shattered, but he would not go down without a fight. He ordered his remaining forces to make one final stand. The Krethrai had underestimated the Reapers, but now they would face their greatest challenge yet. The city was surrounded, and every corner would be a battleground. As the Reapers closed in on the heart of the city, Olivia's thoughts turned to the healers. She knew that their mission was about more than just winning a battle. It was about protecting the future. The galaxy had relied on Earth's healers for so long, and if they were lost now, the consequences would be felt across the stars. The Reapers pushed forward, their weapons ready. They cleared room after room, neutralizing any Krethrai soldiers in their path. As they approached the facility's central chamber, Reyes motioned for his team to stop. The final confrontation was just ahead. He could feel the tension in the air. This would be the turning point. Everything they had fought for would come down to this. "Ready?" Reyes asked, his voice steady. The Reapers nodded in unison. There was no fear, no hesitation. They had trained for this moment. They had fought for this moment. The doors to the central chamber slid open and the Reapers entered, their eyes scanning the room for threats. In the center of the room stood the Krethrai general, Korth, flanked by his elite guards. The room was filled with the soft hum of alien technology, but the silence between the two sides was deafening. Korth sneered as he saw the Reapers enter. "You think you can defeat us?" he spat. "You are nothing. Earth is nothing. You will never win." Reyes stepped forward, his eyes cold. "You should have never come to Earth," he said, his voice low but filled with authority. "Now you will pay for what you did." With a signal from Reyes, the Reapers charged. The battle was swift and brutal. The Krethrai soldiers fought valiantly, but they were no match for the Reapers' overwhelming strength and skill. Korth himself stepped forward, his weapon crackling with energy, but Reyes was already there, meeting him in a fierce clash. The two leaders fought, their weapons clashing with the sound of thunder. It was a fight to the death. In the end, it was Reyes who emerged victorious. With a final powerful strike, he sent Korth to the ground. The Krethrai general's weapon fell from his hand as he crumpled to the floor. The Reapers had won. The room fell silent as the last of the Krethrai forces were subdued. The healers who had been held captive in the chamber were freed, their faces filled with gratitude and relief. They had been through hell, but now they were safe. As Reyes looked at the healers, his expression softened. This was why they had fought, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy would be forever changed, but humanity had proven its strength. The Reapers had delivered their message. Earth was not to be underestimated. The Krethrai had learned that lesson the hard way, and as the Reapers disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a galaxy forever altered, one thing was certain. Earth was no longer just a peaceful planet. It was a force to be reckoned with.